Hello everyone, my name is Sutton. I'm from Off the Clock Crafts here on YouTube, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make my iconic granny vest. I've made these vests in so many different sizes and color variations, so it's a really fun and customizable pattern. I'm super excited today because I'll be using Lion Brand's Touch of Alpaca yarn, so this vest is going to be incredibly soft. If you guys have any questions about this pattern, please DM me on Instagram, or you can always reach out via email as well. Now, with all that being said, let's jump into this project. So let's talk about materials. I used 3 skeins of the Touch of Alpaca yarn in the color Blush, and then I also used a little bit of this beautiful purple Touch of Alpaca, and the color is called Purple Aster. I used my old reliable 5mm crochet hook, 2 stitch markers just for visual reference purposes. Of course, I use scissors, and also optional tapestry needle for weaving in ends. Also optional is a tape measure as well. I did make a little gauge swatch, which is 13 chains wide, which that will make sense in a little bit, and 10 rows tall from the project, and it measured out to be 5 by 5 inches. So there are 3 parts to this pattern. There is a back panel and then 2 front panels. Right now I'm going to start on the back piece. So moving on to the project, I made a slip knot, and then I chained 54 plus 1. Any multiple of 3 plus 1 will do if you want to make this bigger or smaller. I will say this vest turned out to be more on the fitted side, and in my opinion perfectly cropped. And if you're unsure on how large to make this, I like to use measurements from clothes that I already like the fit of, and then I kind of go off of those measurements. Okay, moving on. After I'm done chaining, I'm going to turn my chains. So instead of seeing the V's of crochet, I'm now looking at these little bumps, and I'm going to half double crochet right into those back bumps of the chain. I'm doing this because later I will be adding a scalloped edge, and it's just going to be a lot easier to add that trim later. So I'm just half double crocheting into the back bumps of the chain for the rest of our first row. Now that I'm at the end of row 1, I'm going to chain 3 and turn my work. Row 2 is an important row because it's going to be our setup row for the rest of the back piece. In the next immediate stitch, I'm going to add 2 double crochets. So the chain 3 acts as a double crochet. So we technically have 3 double crochets going on here. So right now I have a little set of double crochets. So I'm going to chain 1, skip over the next 2 stitches, and then I'm going to put 3 double crochets in this stitch over here. Then after I do 3 double crochets, I'm going to chain 1, skip over the 2 stitches, and then add 3 double crochets into the next stitch. I'm going to continue this pattern until the end of the row. And in total, I'll make 19 sets of the double crochet. So now that I'm at the end of the row, I'll be adding my last set of 3 double crochet. Let's move on to row 3. So I'm going to chain 3 and then turn my work. I'm going to immediately find the first large space between double crochet sets and double crochet 3 times into that space, then chain 1. I'll find the next space, add a set of double crochet, chain 1, and then I'll repeat that till the end of the row. At the end of the row, I finished my last set of double crochet, and now I'm going to chain 1. Then I'm going to put 1 double crochet in the very corner of the cluster set from the previous row. Moving on to row 4, I chain 3, I turn my work. So you'll see that there's a new space right next to our chain 3. So since the chain 3 counts as a double crochet, I'll put 2 double crochets into that immediate space. So we start off this row with a cluster set. I'll chain 1, move on to the next space, do a cluster set, chain 1, so on and so forth. I am finishing this row with a cluster set as well. I'll chain 1, add 2 double crochet in the very last space, and then I'll add my very last double crochet for the row in the very corner of the very last stitch of the previous row. So I have nice, clean, straight edges, okay? So here's what the first 4 rows are looking like for the back of the vest. Now I'm going to repeat rows 3 and 4 for the next 13 rows. So all together, I will have 17 rows, including our half double crochet row. If you would like this vest to be longer, you can always add more rows. I wear high-waisted pants, so I like a cropped look, but that's just me, okay? crochet, the world is your oyster. And then once you're done with all of your rows, it should look something like this. Let's do a little measurement check. The total length so far is 19.5 inches, and the height is just a hair over 9 inches. So obviously we need to make some room for our arms. So I'm going to mark out where our arms are going to go. So on either side of this rectangle that I have going on, I'm going to count over 3 double crochet sets, and then I'll add my stitch marker. And the space that I marked out is roughly 3.5 inches. And obviously this tutorial would not be complete without a cameo of our queen, Miss Lollipop. So now that I have my arm openings marked off, I'm going to make a slip knot and attach my yarn using a slip stitch right where I put my stitch marker. So I'll slip stitch, then chain 2, and that will equal a double crochet. And then I'll double crochet 2 more times in the space, which will give me a double crochet set. So I'm starting off this row with a double crochet set. I'll chain 1 and then move on to the next space and make a double crochet set, chain 1, make another double crochet set, and I'll keep doing that until I reach the next stitch marker on the other side of the piece. Coming up on that stitch marker, in the space where my stitch marker is, I'll put my last set of double crochet. So then I'll chain 3 and turn my work. So I'll put my first double crochet set in that first large space over, and I'll keep crocheting in the pattern that I have been crocheting in. Double crochet set, chain 1, double crochet set, chain 1 until the end of the row. So I've just made my last double crochet set for the row, and I'll chain 1 and put my last double crochet for the row in the corner of the very last stitch of the previous row. And this just helps make everything look nice and tidy. Then I'll chain 3 and I'll keep repeating row 18 and 19 until I hit row 33. So I have 14 more rows to crochet. Here's what the back piece is looking like. Let's do a little measurement check. The width of the top of the back piece is a wee bit over 13 inches, and the length from the armpit up is about 8 inches. Okay, the back piece is done. Let's get started on the front panels. Just for visual reference, here's what the front panels are kind of going to look like. Moving on, I'm going to start with a slip knot, and then I'm going to make 27 chains plus 1. For row 1, I'm going to half double crochet into the back bumps of the chain, just like how I did for the back panel. Once I'm done, I'll chain 3 and turn my work. For row 2, I will set up all of my double crochet sets, just like I did for the back piece. So I'll double crochet 2 times in the first immediate stitch, and then chain 1, skip over 2 stitches, double crochet 3 times in the same stitch, chain 1, skip over 2 stitches, make a double crochet set, and I will do that until the end of the row. And I ended the row with 9 sets of double crochet. At the end of the row, I chain 3, turn my work, and I put 3 double crochet in the first opening between the double crochet sets. So at the end of the row, I will chain 1, put my last double crochet into the top of the last stitch of the last row, chain 3, turn my work, and then I start and end this row with a double crochet set, and I will repeat rows 3 and 4 until I get to row 17. Here's what I've got going on thus far. I'm going to count 2 double crochet sets over and add my stitch marker so I have a little bit of arm space. Now it's time for the decreases. So I'm only decreasing on one side of the vest, and on the other side of the vest where I have my stitch marker, I'm keeping that side straight. So I just finished my last row, and now it's time to decrease. So I chain 3, turn my work, and usually I would put 2 double crochets right in that immediate space, but instead I'm going to skip over that space and put my 3 double crochets in the next space over. Then I'll crochet the rest of the row just like I have been, and at the end of the row, when I get to my stitch marker, I'll add my last double crochet set right where my stitch marker is. Then I'll chain 3, turn my work, and I'm keeping this side of the vest straight, so I'll add a set of double crochet in the next space over and crochet like normal till I get to the end of the row. Now that I'm at the end of the row, I'm going to decrease again. So instead of adding a double crochet set to this last space, I'm going to just chain 1 and add 1 last double crochet into that corner
of the last stitch from the previous row. And I'll show you how to decrease again so we all get the hang of it. Chain 3, turn my work, and instead of crocheting in that first immediate space, I simply start my double crochet sets in the next space over. And when I get to the end of the row, again, I'm keeping this side straight, so I'll end the row with a double crochet set. Chain 3, turn my work, and I'll crochet just like I have been up until the end of the row. So we're going to do another decrease. So once I crochet my last double crochet set, instead of crocheting another set in that last large space, I'll just chain 1 and add one last double crochet to end the row. And I'm going to continue to decrease just like this for 3 more rows. So in total, I'll have 6 decrease rows. So after 6 rows of decreasing, the front panel should look something like this. So now I'm going to crochet in the same stitch that I've been crocheting in for 10 more rows. And the next 10 rows really fly by because there's not that many double crochet sets to crochet. Okay, so here's what the finished panel is looking like. Let's do a little measurement check while we're here. The width of the front panel is 9 inches. The height up until the armpit is 8.5 inches. The space I left for the arm is about 2 inches. The armpit up is 8 inches. And just for funsies, our little decrease area is 4 inches. Time for everyone's favorite part. It's time to seam all of our panels together. So I'm laying my back panel down and then laying the front panels on top. And I'm going to seam up the sides right up until the armpit area right here. And then I'm also going to seam up the shoulder area of the front panels to the back panel as well. There's no right or wrong way to seam, just do it in a method that you enjoy. For reference, I enjoy seaming using a flat slip stitch. So now that I'm done seaming, I'm going to do some prep work so that adding the scalloped edge will be a lot easier. So I'm going to half double crochet all along the opening of the vest and also the armholes as well. And since I crocheted in the back bumps of my chain stitches in the very beginning of making all these panels, I don't have to half double crochet along the bottom of the piece. And once I'm done with the half double crochet, it'll look something like this. And then I'm ready to add my scalloped trim. It's time to add the scalloped trim, and this is what it's going to look like. So to make the scallops, I'm making a slip knot, and then I'm finding a space to start. So I'm going to insert my hook into one of those half double crochets that I just made a whole bunch of. I'm going to grab my yarn, pull it through, and then chain 1. Then I'll skip over a stitch. And then in the next stitch, I will put 3 double crochets. If you would like larger, more dramatic looking scallops, you can always add more than 3 double crochets. These more daintier scallops were just kind of the vibe that I was going for with this vest. But after I've made my 3 double crochets, I'll skip a stitch. Then I'll slip stitch, then I'll skip a stitch, and then I'll make 3 double crochets in that next stitch. So essentially the pattern that I'm going to be doing for all of the scalloped edge is slip stitch, skip a stitch, 3 double crochet, then skip a stitch, then slip stitch, then 3 double crochet, so on and so forth. And I'm adding the scalloped trim along all of the perimeters of the vest. So I'm putting the scallop trim on both armholes, the bottom of the vest, and the opening of the vest as well. Now that I'm done with the scalloped trim, I'm going to add some ties to the vest. And I'm going to add my ties right here, so like just under the point of the vest where I started my decreases. I'm using a pink yarn to demonstrate this, but eventually I didn't like it, so then I switched it out for the purple yarn. So I'm going to attach my yarn, and then I'm going to make 40 chains. You can obviously make more or less if you would like. After I'm done with those 40 chains, I'm going to slip stitch my way back down to the vest. And then for my final slip stitch, I will slip stitch right into the space where I started, and that is how you make the tie. And then I'll do the exact same thing on the other side of the vest. It's now time to weave in any remaining loose ends that I have and try the vest on.
there you have it. That's how you make this really, really cute summer vest. I mean, great for layering with any outfit. If you have any questions about this pattern, feel free to DM me on Instagram, and you can also email me as well. Make sure to follow Lion Brand on all their social media and also follow me on all mine. Thank you so much for watching, and happy crocheting, everyone. Yes, you are so cute in every way.